else to say. Hey,
Hi.
everybody, welcome back. We were talking about vegetables. Sorry.
It's my theory that a vegetable, even if it's deep fried, coated, covered in cheese, it's still a vegetable somewhere deep down.
That's all I'm saying. It's a vegetable in denial.
Zucchini
It's a
sticks.
vegetable with an identity crisis.
All right. Well, welcome back, and we want to. We're actually so grateful to have David Anderson here. David, you had a lucrative selling career. You've been actually selling for the majority of your working life.
Yep.
And we wanted to know. We know that some listings out there are going a little bit stale, or some are going expired, things like that. So we wanted to talk to you today about some strategies for working with those. How do we handle them? What do we say to clients? What are some strategies for maybe picking up some activity again and go from there? So welcome to the show, David.
Thank you.
Have you been here, just to kind of start things off, obviously, office manager, Northeast office. Have you
Yes.
been having conversations with your realtors about this topic?
No, my realtors are all awesome. 100% of their
Yeah.
listings sell.
Nice work.
Some of them, yes, because they want to stay current with it. To me, it always comes down to the number one thing, which is communication with your client through the whole process. When you're in a down market, there's always challenges with getting a listing sold, but the key is staying in touch with your client. Make sure they understand how hard you're working. So when it comes time to do a price adjustment, to do a relist, something to help remarket it, they're already on board with you because they know how hard you're working.
I just want to add to that for a second here, because you make such a good point where you have to remember that so many things, the stuff that realtors do is behind the scenes.
Yep.
And clients don't see that.
Got to tell them.
That's right. And literally preparing an outline about what you do, what you're doing to get the home sold, things like that are so important. Because again, the clients just don't know. And if they see you sell it quickly, then they start questioning the value. Or alternatively, if it goes stale, then they think, well, have you been doing anything? So no, great point to start.
So we thought we would break this down in kind of four main categories. The first one specifically, there's a listing on the market, not getting quite as much attention as it should be. What are a few ideas that a realtor could do specifically to get more members of the public interested in the listing?
Well, as it becomes stale, of course, it's dropping down. You're only getting the new people theoretically coming into the market. So one strategy is to terminate and relist. Even though it's only off and on maybe for an hour, it still comes up refreshed as a new listing. The CDOM won't reset, cumulative days on market. But for all those people that have already been exposed to it or saw it, it does come out as a fresh email in their search. Revisit them. But when you go to do that, take a real critical look at your listing, maybe get other realtors to have a look at it, and get some ideas on how to improve it. Make sure you're marketing the lifestyle of the community. We're not just selling a home, we're selling life. What is going to fit the people that want to live that? So make sure you're bringing out all the things that are important to them. You know, transportation time to downtown, if they're working there, schools, shopping that's available, restaurants in the area, parks, pathways, swimming pools. You're selling a complete lifestyle, so make sure you're doing that. Change up your images, the order. Think about the logical approach. What are the best features of the home? Take advantage of what we have. We see too many lists just in their comments. They'll say, 4,200 square feet, it has this, it has that, and all that. And they make no connection. All they're doing is listing a set of features, and they're not tying the benefit to the lifestyle of the person that may move in there.
If you think about that, you have it where they're telling you everything you can already see in the photos and in the description. It's like people just wrote it out in the listing comments. And I'm like, well, I can see it has hardwood floors. I'm staring, or I can see it has granite or quartz. Like it's right in the picture. I can see it's an open concept. Like it's right in the photos. So it's like, why are you talking about that stuff? Talk about the things people can do in the house, like the lifestyle that they can live in there, and really romance that.
Take the picture, and that's the nice thing about our MLS system. And most realtors don't take advantage. With each individual photo, you can put comments.
That's right.
So create that lifestyle, place them in the home, what they're going to be doing in that room. They'll spend longer on the listing, and it creates a desire. If you can create the desire for that potential customer in that this is a home I need to see because it offers the lifestyle we're seeking, you'll generate a showing.
I remember when we were looking to move a while ago, and we were looking in, was it Glenmore Park, North Glenmore?
North Glenmore.
North Glenmore. Didn't move there, but I remember there was
To hell with Glenmore.
It was out of my price range. The
It was
price
just out
range
of
that I
our price
wanted
range.
to spend.
But there was one realtor who did and we were moving from Cochrane where there was a lot of active lifestyle stuff and there was a lot of stuff that was very close. And I hated that we were leaving that. And I knew nothing about Glenmore Park other than it was close to the office. But this realtor had an image of the front of the house. Like, I'll never forget this. And at the time, I just I was just training for a sprint triathlon, so there was a pool a minute drive for me. So they took a picture of the Glenmore Aquatic Center, and then there was a picture of Lakeview Golf Course, and then there was a picture of the Glenmore Reservoir, and those were the first 3 photos after the main photo. And I was like, it's amazing here, right? Like, and it was so interesting because I didn't know any of that was in that community, and instantly it was like, I don't care what my house is like. Like, I just want to be close to the pool and the golf course and kayaking in the summer. So it's interesting that you said that because that really stood out from a buyer
we
perspective.
forget as realtors that not everyone has the knowledge we have of individual communities. They have no idea.
Calgary.
That MLS map book that you can get from Krebs with the individual community pages, with everything listed on it, bike paths, schools, what a great tool to have available for people. Take a picture of that. There's lots of things you can load onto your listing to point out all the benefits of a neighborhood and a quadrant in the city and what it brings to their life.
I just want
Great
to
suggestion.
speak to something that I totally just slipped my mind. So don't worry about it. Go on.
See, you put beachwear
Go on.
on,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
go right to vacation break.
Done. Absolutely done. Next
That's why
time.
I'm so sharp today.
It looks
One
good.
of us has to be. One of us has to be. Okay.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Think about the standpoint that your photos right now, if your listing has been on for 60 days, 90
Gotta
days.
change 'em.
Well, the problem is right now they're snow covered. The roof is snow covered, so I believe the next week even we're going to see a lot of the snow melt and taking a photo of the property, plus maybe get some digital enhancements to the front of the house in order to get those pictures, because you only need the front one and maybe a backyard one to have it where they can put the green grass in with virtual
Good
staging. You
suggestion.
can't change the actual front of the house. But anything that's on the lawn, the sky, things like that, get it done, just the front photo, so that it looks like the pictures aren't super old. So don't forget to refresh that. And I just want to speak to my point, the cumulative days on market. For those of you that don't know that, maybe you're a bit newer, there's 2 different ones. There's days on market, and then there's cumulative days on market. Some people say it's CDOM. But cumulative days on market only reset if the listing's been off for 30 days. And then
Now in Red Deer for our Cara agents, it's actually 10 days.
oh, it's 10 days. Okay.
10 days
Good to
for
know.
them, which is really good because you can take a listing off, do some of the other things we're going to talk about to the home, and then put it back on, and they only have to wait 10 days, which is nice.
And ask yourself too, as a listing realtor, what's the competitive advantage of this property? If you had a gun to your head and you had to answer the question, it's like, why should someone buy?
Gun to your head, ashes early.
Yeah.
Welcome to the family meeting of the Mafia this morning.
This is the way I
Guido,
think-
tell me more.
This is the way I think about stuff. Is I think you know what? If I was forced to come up with a reason why someone should buy this house and none other, what is it? Is it the value for what you get? Like, God, it's on the busiest road. It's everything else. Yeah, but it's also one of the least expensive single-family homes they can get in that school district. It's one of the, it's all these things that come together. So if you can answer that question and position your listing such that it reflects these competitive advantages, like you said, take a strategic look at it. What sets it apart? Awesome.
Focus on the positives of every property. Every property has some positives. That's what we talk about.
Yep.
We don't talk about the bus stop out front. We might talk about that incredibly short commute to downtown and easy access
Absolutely.
to transit, but that's the way of spinning it positively.
Cool.
And there are people that don't care that the bus is out front.
No.
They like that they don't have to walk 3 blocks when it's 25 below in April to get to transit, to get downtown to work or wherever they're going.
Gosh, isn't that the truth? All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was great. So a little bit of ideas on how to get things front and center for a client. So what about to get more attention from other realtors? Like, obviously at the end of the day, when it comes to showings, a realtor is going to be making a lot of the decisions in terms of where somebody's going. So
Yep.
how can you reach out to your sphere of influence as realtors to say, I want you to bring your clients to this place?
Well, within CIR alone, of course, we have the agent Facebook page. You can be putting your listings up there, talking about them. But one of my favorites always was a realtor caravan, and we might do multiple ones through the life of the listing the longer it went. Change of seasons. The advantage of doing it, if you're going to email out to 70 or 80 realtors that you're going to do a caravan, have that link in there so they can click and see your listing. So even if they end up not participating, at least you're getting the listing hopefully in front of them, and you can generate. You're also going to be talking to the other realtors that have buyers and sellers in the immediate area as well, so higher chance that they're going to have someone or know someone that your property may work for if theirs doesn't. They like to be able to tell their clients, I've been to these other properties.
Totally, yeah.
It's an advantage for them, spin that they get to see properties, see their competition. It also lets you get all that feedback. You've got 8 or 10 realtors there. The ones that tend to participate are the smart ones that understand the advantages of it, and they're going to give you great feedback. And if I can talk to 8 or 9 or 10 realtors who are going to give me each one tiny little nugget to improve my listing, why wouldn't I do it? Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to my client. My client is happy because I'm trying to generate business, reaching out to the busy realtors, the people that the 20% that get the business done. So you get 2 objectives handled. You hopefully get a better listing. Helps later on when you need price drops too from all that feedback. It just ties into so many things. And again, your client knows. And when they come home that night and there's 8 or 10 business cards sitting on their counter, and you're going to talk to them about the feedback and what we found out, it's just positive, positive, positive.
And it goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's showing that you've done everything you can. And
Absolutely.
we're going to talk about kind of the price reduction, that stuff next, but
Yep.
part of that is saying we're doing everything we can, which is
Yep.
great. I want to pose something to the 2 of you, because I've seen this a few times this year when I've been looking through some listings. Realtor incentives financially for selling a property. So when somebody says, you get an extra this, or, the client says, if this house sells, we will give. So obviously some people are doing that to try and make the listing look a little bit more attractive. Maybe both of your opinions on that, David.
They can work. It tends to draw out the realtor that's more concerned with themselves than their client. So, but it also tends to disappear for you within the negotiation process, because as the buyer wants money off, you'll say that's fine, but if we were now offering 5.5, so what we would consider to be maybe $2,000 above the norm, because of course all commissions are negotiable.
Absolutely.
So we never say bonus in our things. We say pay attention to the commission in the realtor notes. They'll understand what you're saying without getting a foul of Competition Bureau. But it can disappear during the negotiation. You say, okay, but we'll offer then just 3.5, 1.5, but we'll help you get to the price. Chances are that if they're a good realtor, they've got their client in exclusive buyer brokerage, so they're probably signed to 3.5, 1.5 anyways.
So what about situations where a client's it's a client offered incentive, and it's, buy this house and we will give you a $1,500 gift card to Rona? What about that type of incentive?
Some of those things can work, and it is an incentive, and it might help bring a buyer out, and it might sway them if they have 2 houses that are reasonably equal that they want to offer on. Will they push forward on that? I'm more in favor of trying to attract the buyer based on the qualities of the home than incentives. Because at the end of the day, we've seen it. Every time we walk into a home with our buyer, we know when they've found the one. You can see it in the body language, what they're saying, they're placing the furniture. At that point, they wouldn't care if they were getting $5,000 down the street. Doesn't matter. This is our house.
Right.
So does it maybe generate some showings? Possibly. But I don't think it will, at the end of the day, help with the sale. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you.
Lindsay?
I think on financial incentives for the realtors, you want to be careful on not de-incentivizing more than incentivizing, from the standpoint of, are you offering less than, let's say, a common commission rate of 3.5, 1.5. So if you're doing less than that, then it's like, well, now the realtors might not be as eager to talk about the property when you're through it, to say some nice, more favorable things. As for incentivizing on the other side, it's a conversation starter, but I'd be a bigger fan, and actually, David, you alluded to this. It's like, so if you're going to give an extra $3,000, maybe that extra $3,000 will paint the master bedroom, or allow you to actually get some staging furniture into the 3 awkward rooms that are having some problems because people can't envision how their furniture is. So why not invest the money in that if you're willing to pay it anyways? And then now it looks better in the photos, it looks better in all these things. So your point, you nailed it in my opinion, where it's really focused on the property. If you're going to offer, and there we've seen some marketing strategies where it's like, oh, beer for life and things like that. And so it gets some publicity, but it's more
That might work with a couple of realtors.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's more of a publicity stunt for, I think, the realtor themselves than it is for necessarily where, am I going to make a decision to buy a specific house because I get beer for life? Like this is going to be my thing, or well, maybe beer for life. But anyways, but the point is if you can take that same $5,000 or $3,000, whatever you're planning to give to that, and actually improve the parts of the house that make this awkward. I'll just give you one quick example here. We have a realtor that has a home in Maple Ridge, and the home has backs onto a beautiful park and a nice little toboggan hill and stuff there, but the list doesn't have a garage. So she has invested the time to get a garage quote, to go down to the city, have a mock-up drawing of the RPR with the garage on it, everything else, so that now the people are educated in there. And I'd rather have you spend that time to educate and get in there versus trying to say, oh, here's $2,000 to try to show my house.
Fix a negative in the property.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely, all the time.
And you don't have to fix it. You can even just say, here's the potential.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, so next question. It is time for a price reduction. So I maybe answer this in two different ways. So the first one is from a realtor perspective, the price was correct all along. That could be one situation, but now it's just to sell they have to. Option number two, the price was wrong to begin with. The realtor knew it was wrong to begin with, and now there needs to be a price reduction, but obviously the client thinks the house was priced fairly. In general, a few different takes on it. How do you start that conversation?
First of all, you got to start it way back at the listing point.
Yeah, exactly.
If you take an overpriced listing, you have to make sure the client recognizes that you're choosing to list with their price. You've set the stage for future price drops so you can have the proper conversation. It's critical throughout the life of the listing to have that communication. If I'm talking to them once a week for my 15 minutes that I have scheduled with them, and I'm reviewing everything new that's come on the market, any solds that have happened, what we're seeing, the trends in the marketplace, should have at least a monthly face-to-face where we go through everything, make sure we're talking, explaining what we're doing. Your relationship stays strong all the way through. Try to focus them to what their original goal was. So if they say, we really want to sell this because we wanted to move, like you guys did, in to shorten that traffic commute time, focus them on why they want to sell. If we're in a declining market and they have a lower priced home and they want to move up, if we've dropped 10% here at 500,000, the 750 that they want to drop has dropped 75. So the gap between the sale of their home and the one they want to move into has actually decreased, and they're closer together. So it's to an advantage to price correctly, and we're watching the market. In the same way, when we had our original listing, we would be talking about that, and we talk about if the market starts to rapidly increase, like we saw in 13, 14, we saw in 06, 07, we adjusted our listing prices upward because we could, and we just needed the right person to walk through the door. You focus on your positives, you talk to them about it, it's a business conversation. You got to empathize with them, they're not going to be happy, but if you've done all the things through the stages correctly, having that conversation is much simpler. If I haven't talked to them in 3 months and they've had 4 showings, I know my sign's coming down and somebody else is going up. Why?
You're not going to get the listing.
And the only person you can look at is the one in the mirror, because you have not done your job. You have not stayed in contact. You not have managed their expectations right from the start. It's tough. Just get ready to lose the listing, but you got nobody to blame for yourself. If you've done everything right, we all know it's the realtor's fault, first of all.
Yeah.
But you have to have good communication all the way through, and you're just presenting the facts. And this is reality. What do you want to do? And you're doing right what we teach. You're educating your client so they can make the best decision for them. If that decision ends up being taking the listing off because we don't really need to move, that's okay. because if you do it well and you maintain that relationship, and I think back to an infill I had in Mount Pleasant, and it didn't sell. It was in a declining market. We dropped throughout. We ended up coming off for almost a year. We stayed in touch, and as soon as the market started to turn and we said, I think we can achieve what? We relisted it. It sold right away.
That's great.
They bought their villa they wanted to move to. It just delayed. But we managed everything through, and they weren't upset. At the end of the day, it just wasn't the right time to sell their home. And you have to think long-term with your clients. But it's about relationship all the way through.
Yeah.
Great answer.
And do it face-to-face.
Yeah, two really quick things on that. And when you talk about doing it face-to-face, take them to see the competition. Take them to see what's out. Like
that's coming up.
Yeah, look at a couple homes, and then the other. Oh, perfect. And then the other thing is you got to be able to paint a story about this. When we talked in our market update about submarkets, you got to be able to show the Krebs stats and just be like, listen, like it's not the same as it was in 2017. Here's where it was doing then, and here's what it's doing today. The markets have changed now. How do you feel about this? And we can go from there. But that face-to-face conversation is important. Good points.
Always. And I've heard it from realtors. Well, I sent them a text that we need a price drop, and then I sent them an amendment form and they didn't sign it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Okay, just pull out the gun and shoot yourself right now, because that's what you've done.
People just immediately think,
destroyed.
now I'm losing $25,000. It's like, the $25,000 wasn't on the table to start with. But
we all hear the conversation when we're listing why they're not using their previous.
Yeah.
Number one, I never heard from them.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from them since the day the property did finally sell.
Wow.
So it's so much about communication, and pick up the phone, have your weekly meetings, that monthly face-to-face. And when you have that face-to-face meeting, you're saying, what do you want to do? It's their decision, it's their home. You make recommendations and what's best for them. Sometimes the best thing is take down the listing, because we're going to wait till the market turns, because it does. Always has, hopefully always will.
So last question, which really feeds into what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
So a listing is about to expire. So let's talk about it from this standpoint. Not that you don't deserve to have it go back on with your sign because you've been terrible. So not that situation. But a situation where the client does want the home to sell, they do need to move, but they're upset that it hasn't sold through no fault of your own, and you want to get them to sign a new contract so your sign stays on that lawn instead of them being like, well, I think I'm just going to try someone else because obviously it didn't. What are some strategies for having some confidence in that conversation, some suggestions, and basically, what can we do different the next 3 months, potentially that didn't happen the last 3 months?
Well, one, we can talk about freshening the listing. So the things we talked about earlier, the new photos, making sure it's done. What else? Is there anything, what have we had from feedback from showings that we can do to correct our home and make it more saleable? Talk about those things, how we can integrate. It isn't always just price. And I've heard that from clients where they say, oh, that's your first go-to is price. Now, we all know you can sell anything as long as the price is right. If it's a horrible home and you price it down here, it will sell.
Yeah.
But we want to maximize, so things like, it's spring. Could we get a professional cleaning done? Get the exterior of the home washed? Get the garden and the grass all done by a professional? All of these things to make our listing better. Have a realtor, if you do a realtor caravan, now try to organize an open house parade. We're coming hopefully into spring where we'll see attendance increase at open houses. So times of year allow us to do different marketing techniques.
Absolutely.
So we can talk about bringing those things in. But at the end of the day, if you've gone all the way through and you've maintained good communication skills, worked with them through everything, they understand, still like, and trust you. They will follow your suggestions. They will want to re-sign, hopefully, rather than going with the unknown. Sometimes it doesn't work, but you do the best that you can.
I just wanted to make a point of clarification, because we had said, and we know it's always the realtor's fault. Just as a point of, that's a tongue-in-cheek thing, because the client always thinks it's the realtor's fault.
Yes.
So it's not always the realtor's fault.
No.
And probably rarely in a lot of cases, but
it's usually the client's fault because they just won't listen.
Yeah, they don't have the expectations. So
Yeah.
And when you're relisting it too, don't forget that you made a couple great comments about the reasons why the client believes that the realtor is not doing their job, and one of them you said is they're not keeping in contact. I never heard from them again. They seem too busy for me. Another one that we hear all the time is that well, you never brought me a client. It's like you never brought a buyer to my house, and that is one of the things you got to be careful of with that is when you talked about doing the realtor caravan, and it's like, well, hold on a second here. Like let your client know when a realtor that had another listing in the area brings a client, then you can say, hey, one of the realtors, just to let you know, John Doe is coming in. I talked to him a little bit beforehand on the phone. We talked about your listing, and now he's bringing a client in. So the client's like, oh gosh. So whether it was your activity or not, but it's that point of like, hey, we had this person in, and it brings value to it as well. So,
well, and all the little things too about making sure your listing's presented well. So the in-house things, one of the things we used to do sometimes, we would create the sheet of all the additional items you may not notice.
Yes.
Get it to that realtor who is going to generate the showing.
Yeah.
Have the little, whether you use the labels we have or little 5x7 frames with the highlight about, what's great about this
Key
kitchen or the
features,
stove,
yeah.
the key features, tie the benefits. Because people can walk by something and not realize that this is worth a tremendous amount of value and brings great rewards to their lifestyle without even realizing it.
There was an open house down the street from us. And it was a CIR open house, so we went because it was literally down the street and we drove past it. Not because we were looking to move. But anyway, it was interesting because the back of it had a deck, and when you look down the stairs was piled with 5 feet of snow. But obviously the homeowners took the time to shovel the deck. And if they hadn't, so I walked out onto the deck, which was kind of cool because, it's over a beautiful park. So it gives you the opportunity to actually step out. But it was a Dura deck. So the multi-$1,000 deck that.
Composite deck.
Yeah, that whatever it is. That
Maintenance free.
Yeah.
Maintenance free for the rest
deck,
of your life. My parents did that. I'm pretty sure it's the most money they've ever spent on anything was to get that done on their deck. But if they hadn't shoveled all of that snow.
You don't see it.
You wouldn't have seen it, right? And I don't know if that would have been something that would have been in listing comments or what, but in terms of saying, something else that adds tremendous value that you would have otherwise not noticed, especially in winter, little things like that is, that's a big deal.
Well, and don't forget to use things like you can do a special neighborhood-only event. Neighbors quite often know someone that wants to move into the neighborhood. They're just waiting. Let them get into the house. They'll share the information. Utilize our things like our Happy Home Contest, our Best My Nest programs, all of these tools we have for you. Bring them out and make sure you're using them. Either if you weren't, start using them, or say, I had this great idea, I went to a course, I learned this, I'm going to implement it for you. Always focusing on the positive of everything you're going to do to try and make it happen.
Totally.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you so much, David.
David,
Those
thank
were
you so much for the
good
knowledge.
advice.
Thank you.
Oh, I got to give a shout out to my other 3 managers because Terrence actually created a whiteboard and we all threw ideas on it. Now, I didn't even know you could do this electronically. I'm
That's
used
so
to a
cool.
whiteboard being
That's so
a
cool.
piece of paper, but a lot of the stuff we brought forward today was from the collective minds of your management team. So
Awesome.
Smart group.
talk to them. We're not as, we're pretty smart some days.
You are very smart most days.
Awesome. All right, we're going to be back, and we're going to talk about our new chuck wagon contest, so stick with us.